Just 2 seconds in, Jimin whispers, "I can't do without you," to Jungkook as fireworks explode. Jungkook's eyes glaze over sparkling heart, sparkles fans and hysterics. The night air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and sweet sugar from street vendors, but Jungkook barely noticed. His focus was locked on Jimin, who stood just a breath away, eyes reflecting the kaleidoscope of fireworks erupting above the skyline. He felt the world tilt, each pop and flare echoing in his chest as if it were a drum counting down to a revelation. "Jungkook, Jimin's voice trembled, barely audible over the cacophony. The words felt suspended, like they might shatter if carried by the wind. Jungkook's pulse thundered, and he leaned in instinctively, drawn by something far deeper than mere curiosity. Just 2 seconds later, Jimin's lips brushed against his ear. "I can't do without you," he whispered, almost a secret stolen from the chaos surrounding them. The heat of those words ignited something raw and unfiltered within Jungkook, leaving his vision blurred, his mind unable to fully comprehend the intensity of the confession. He wanted to speak, to respond, but the fireworks and the sudden trembling in his chest made him mute. Jimin's hands were clammy against his forearms, betraying his calm exterior. He had rehearsed that line countless times, yet now it carried a weight he hadn't anticipated, a fear that declaring the truth could fracture everything, yet the need to say it overpowered the risk. The tension between them was a living, breathing entity, pulling them closer until the crowd and the city lights faded into irrelevance. "Do you feel the same?" Jimin's voice broke again, fragile yet defiant. His amber eyes shimmered under the pyrotechnic glow, the reflection of each explosion dancing in their depths, and Jungkook's chest tightened. Memories of stolen glances, shared laughter, and secret conversations flooded him, moments that suddenly made sense in the context of this night. "Yes," Jungkook managed, voice barely a whisper, yet it vibrated with honesty that made Jimin's lips curve into a relieved, soft smile. They were two souls orbiting dangerously close, and in that shared confession, a universe of unspoken emotions finally collided. A sudden firework cascaded in a cascade of reds and golds, splashing light across Jimin's delicate features. He blinked, caught between the thrill of exposure and the vulnerability of honesty. Jungkook reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from Jimin's forehead, his fingers lingering just long enough to burn warmth into memory. Neither spoke again immediately. The world had quieted down for them in a way that felt sacred, like they were alone in a bubble of luminous emotion. And yet, beneath the serenity, both knew the night was only beginning. Secrets were still lurking in shadows, promises untested, and a lingering danger that had nothing to do with fireworks. Jimin's heartbeat pressed against his chest as he dared to rest his head lightly against Jungkook's shoulder, inhaling the faint scent of his cologne mixed with night air and anticipation. The moment was intimate, electric, as if time itself had slowed to honor the raw confession that had shattered their careful facades. The city around them erupted again, another salvo of sparks painting the sky. But for once, Jungkook didn't flinch. He held Jimin close, eyes glazed not with fear but with awe. He had witnessed courage, the courage to speak a truth so fragile it could have destroyed them both, and he was ready to meet it, no matter what storms might follow. As the final firework bloomed into a giant chrysanthemum of golden light, Jimin lifted his head slightly, smiling softly, the kind of smile that carried vulnerability, trust, and an unspoken promise. Jungkook mirrored it, letting the warmth between them settle like a fragile, beautiful flame against the chilly night. No words were necessary now. The fireworks had ended, but the sparks between them, real, undeniable, unstoppable, were only beginning. And in that charged silence, both felt a future waiting, precarious yet tantalizing, full of both danger and undeniable possibility. The night had cooled, but the heat between them refused to dissipate. Jungkook and Jimin walked side by side along the quiet pier, their hands brushing occasionally, sending jolts of electricity up their arms each time. The city lights shimmered on the water like molten gold, mirroring the chaos in Jungkook's chest. "Are you sure about what you said back there?" Jungkook asked finally, his voice low, almost vulnerable. He hated sounding uncertain, hated admitting that Jimin's confession had completely unmoored him, but he couldn't lie, not now. Jimin tilted his head, eyes narrowing in mischief and something else, something tender. "Do you want me to take it back?" His lips curved into a sly, almost teasing smile, but the slight tremble in his hands betrayed his calm facade. "No," Jungkook admitted, his gaze locking with Jimin's. "I don't want that, not for anything." He swallowed hard, the words heavy with all the unsaid feelings he'd been carrying for months. Nights of longing, mornings of regret, moments stolen in rehearsal rooms or behind studio doors, they all converged into this instant, crystal clear and raw. Jimin's breath hitched, and before Jungkook could think, he was pulling him close. Their bodies collided with a force that was both gentle and desperate. "Then don't make me doubt it," Jimin whispered, voice thick with emotion, almost breaking under the weight of his own need. "Don't ever let me doubt it." Jungkook's hands found Jimin's waist, gripping as if holding him could anchor them both against a world that had been mercilessly unpredictable. "I won't," he vowed. His words were firm, steady, but his heart was hammering so loudly it might as well have been screaming. "I promise, Jimin, I'm not going anywhere." A soft gust of wind swept across the pier, carrying the salty tang of the sea, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Then chaos erupted, not from the city or fireworks, but from the unexpected. The distant flash of cameras, the subtle rustle of approaching footsteps. "Shit," Jimin muttered, stepping back slightly, the first flicker of fear in his eyes since their confession. "We're not alone." Jungkook's senses went on high alert. He could hear the faint hum of paparazzi drones, see the silhouette of someone moving too deliberately in the shadows. His jaw tightened. "We need to move," he said, pulling Jimin along, but his fingers lingered, unwilling to fully let go. They ducked behind a stack of crates, hearts racing. Jimin pressed close, and Jungkook could feel the rapid thrum of his pulse against his chest. Why would anyone follow us here?" Jimin whispered, eyes wide. "Because," Jungkook hesitated, scanning the pier for signs of movement. "Because some people, they can't stand to see us like this." He didn't say it outright, but the implication was clear. Jealousy, obsession, intrusion, they were always lurking, waiting to disrupt the fragile equilibrium they had fought so hard to maintain. Jimin's hand gripped his arm tightly, nails digging just enough to make Jungkook flinch. "I don't care," Jimin hissed, his voice fierce and defiant. "Let them watch. Let them see. I don't care what anyone thinks as long as it's you and me." The words hit Jungkook like a punch and a caress all at once. He looked down at Jimin, saw the mixture of fear, desire, and unshakable determination in his gaze, and felt something snap inside him. Without thinking, he captured Jimin's lips in a heated, urgent kiss, a kiss that spoke of protection, passion, and rebellion all at once. Jimin responded immediately, his hands tangling in Jungkook's hair, pulling him closer, as if trying to erase the fear in a single motion. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard, foreheads pressed together, and the world felt impossibly large and small at the same time. "You're reckless," Jungkook murmured, a teasing edge undercutting his concern. "I'm alive," Jimin shot back, smirk returning, eyes sparkling with adrenaline and mischief. "And so are you, so stop scaring me." Jungkook chuckled, but it was a low, tense sound, because even as they laughed, shadows moved closer. The paparazzi had found them, and with the flash of cameras cutting through the darkness, the vulnerability of their private world was exposed in a way neither of them had anticipated. "You can't hide," Jimin said softly, almost resigned, though his grip on Jungkook's hand didn't loosen. "Not anymore. They'll always try to tear us apart." "Then we fight," Jungkook said, jaw set. "We fight, Jimin, together." Jimin's lips curved into a smile that was both tender and dangerous, the kind of smile that promised storms and sunshine in equal measure. "Together," he repeated, voice firm, unwavering. And as the flashes continued to strobe the pier, highlighting every line, every curve, every heartbeat between them, Jungkook realized that nothing outside this bubble mattered. Not the rumors, not the threats, not the fans or the cameras, none of it. All that existed was the heat of Jimin's body against his, the echo of whispered confessions, and the unspoken vow that neither would ever let go. The night deepened, carrying with it a tension so thick it could have been sliced with a knife. And though danger and chaos lurked in the distance, neither Jimin nor Jungkook flinched. They had found something stronger than fear, stronger than the world's relentless gaze. They had found each other, and in that truth, there was fire enough to burn everything else away. The city lights stretched like a river of gold and silver beneath them, as Jungkook and Jimin finally reached the rooftop, panting, hearts hammering not just from exertion, but from the unrelenting storm of emotions between them. The wind whipped through their hair, cold and biting, but the warmth radiating from their shared space was unbearable in the best way. "Do you have any idea what you just did back there?" Jungkook asked, his voice a mixture of awe and disbelief as he pulled Jimin close, letting their foreheads touch. The flash of paparazzi below, still lingering in the streets, was irrelevant now. All that mattered was the fire between them, raw and insatiable. "I think I finally stopped caring," Jimin whispered, his lips brushing against Jungkook's temple. "About them, about everything, except this." He pressed himself tighter against Jungkook, and the sudden proximity made Jungkook's chest ache with desire and longing he'd tried to ignore for far too long. "You don't understand," Jungkook muttered, almost lost in his own confession. You're reckless, and you make me reckless too, and that scares me, Jimin." Jimin laughed softly, the sound tremulous but intoxicating, eyes glimmering with mischief and defiance. "I like scaring you," he admitted, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "And I like knowing you feel the same way." His hand slid along Jungkook's arm, fingers teasingly grazing his shoulder, sending sparks through every nerve. "Don't fight it, don't fight me." Jungkook inhaled sharply, the scent of Jimin's cologne mixed with the crisp night air sending him spiraling. I can't," he confessed, voice hoarse. "Every time you're near, every time you—" He stopped, frustrated by the intensity he couldn't fully articulate. "You make me lose control." "And you love it," Jimin interrupted, lips curling into a wicked, daring grin. He leaned in, close enough for their breaths to mingle, warm against the chill night. "Admit it, you love it when I push you, when I challenge you." Jungkook's hands found Jimin's waist again, pulling him flush against himself, not caring who might see, not caring about the danger that seemed to hover around them like a dark cloud. "Yes," he admitted, voice trembling with a mixture of fear and longing. "I love it. I love you." The words hung between them like a spark in a powder keg. Jimin's eyes widened, a flush creeping over his cheeks, but his lips curved into a triumphant, almost predatory smile. "Finally," he murmured, and then kissed him, not soft, not tentative, but demanding, urgent, and full of the kind of passion that made both of them shiver. When they finally pulled apart, gasping, hearts still racing, a new sound sliced through the night, the sharp, unmistakable click of a camera. Both of them froze. "Damn it," Jimin hissed, fury and fear mingling. "They're still here." Jungkook's jaw tightened, protective instincts igniting. "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget," he said, his voice low, dangerous. He pressed Jimin's back against the cold concrete wall of the rooftop, hands tracing the curve of his body in a deliberate, almost torturous tease. "Let them see exactly what they can't touch." Jimin gasped, chest rising and falling rapidly, heat radiating between them. "You're insane," he breathed, lips brushing against Jungkook's ear, sending shivers down his spine. "Completely insane." "Only for you," Jungkook replied, voice rough, urgent. His hands tightened slightly, not enough to hurt, but enough to claim. The intensity of their proximity was almost unbearable, a delicious torture neither wanted to end. "Do you feel it too?" "I feel everything," Jimin whispered, voice breaking. "Every heartbeat, every shiver, every damn thing." The city below them continued its indifferent hum, unaware that two hearts were about to ignite in ways the world wasn't ready to witness. And yet, even as they gave into each other, their bond deepening with every heated glance, every stolen caress, there was an undercurrent of danger neither could ignore. A shadow moved at the edge of the rooftop, silent and calculating. Jimin noticed it first, and his hand tightened on Jungkook's arm. "We're not alone," he murmured, a tremor of worry threading his words. Jungkook's eyes narrowed, protective fury flashing. "Then let them come," he said, pulling Jimin closer, lips pressing against his forehead. I'll fight for you, always. Jimin leaned into him, the warmth of his body grounding Jungkook even as adrenaline surged through both of them. Then fight, he whispered, voice soft but daring. Because I'm not running, not from you, not from anyone. And in that charged, electric silence, with the city lights shimmering below and danger lurking in the shadows, they both knew one truth. The world could try to tear them apart, but nothing would ever extinguish the fire between Jungkook and Jimin. It was reckless, it was dangerous, it was scandalous, and it was theirs. By the time they reached the dimly lit alley behind the rooftop, Jungkook and Jimin were still reeling, hearts racing and clothes damp from the windswept night. The adrenaline from their rooftop confrontation clung to their skin like static electricity, impossible to ignore. Jungkook kept his hand on the small of Jimin's back, guiding him through the shadows, while his mind ran in overdrive. Every step, every sound of distant traffic, every flicker of a passing light made him jumpy. You think they're still following us? Jimin asked, voice low but sharp, scanning the alley like a predator. The confidence he'd carried moments ago was tempered with caution now, a reminder of how dangerous the world could be when they were exposed. Jungkook shook his head, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. I don't know, but we have to assume they are. His tone was calm, professional almost, but the tight grip on Jimin's hand betrayed the storm beneath the surface. Jimin stopped abruptly, turning to face him, their bodies close inches apart. You think this changes anything? His eyes, wide and glimmering, searched Jungkook. For an answer, a reassurance, something steady to cling to in the chaos. It changes everything, Jungkook said, his voice dropping lower, rough with emotion. Everything, but I'm not leaving, no matter what. He leaned in, forehead touching Jimin, letting the tremor in his chest speak louder than words. Jimin exhaled shakily, eyes fluttering closed for a moment, and then opened them, sharp and daring. You know I could lose everything for this, he murmured, voice trembling but defiant. I could lose fans, career opportunities, hell, my reputation. And yet I'd still choose this. He gestured between them, hand shaking slightly. Us. Jungkook's lips curved into a slow, heated smile, the kind that promised fire and defiance. Then we risk it, he said simply, and his hands moved, brushing along Jimin's jaw, tracing the lines of his face like memorizing the contours of a masterpiece. We risk everything, and if anyone tries to tear us apart, they'll regret it. Jimin laughed softly, a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. You're insane, he said, pressing his body closer, feeling the heat of Jungkook's chest against his. Completely reckless. Only for you, Jungkook whispered, and without warning, captured Jimin's lips in a kiss that was desperate, raw, and entirely consuming. The alley seemed to vanish around them as their mouths moved together in perfect, chaotic rhythm, hands roaming, grasping, claiming. Every brush of lips, every shiver of contact, was an unspoken declaration, louder and more dangerous than any words could be. When they finally broke apart, gasping for air, Jimin pressed his forehead against Jungkook's shoulder, whispering, You make me crazy. I've always wanted to, Jungkook murmured, letting a soft laugh escape, despite the tension. I've always wanted to drive you insane, and I've never felt more alive than I do right now. A sudden flash of movement at the alley entrance made both of them freeze. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and Jungkook's protective instincts flared. Stay behind me, he said, voice hard, eyes narrowing. The world outside had intruded again, ready to tear apart the fragile, combustible bubble they had built. A figure stepped forward, silhouette tall and deliberate. Jimin's hand found Jungkook, squeezing tightly. Who is it? He demanded, voice sharp but trembling. Jungkook's eyes narrowed as he assessed the intruder. Trouble, he muttered, and then louder. This is private. Leave. The figure laughed softly, a sound that sent a chill down Jimin's spine. Private, the voice echoed, teasing, dangerous. I think the world deserves to see this, don't you? Jimin's heart skipped a beat. The familiar dread of exposure collided with his racing pulse from moments ago. You wouldn't dare, he said, though doubt crept into his tone. Oh, I already am, the figure said, stepping closer, and in the brief flash of light, Jimin recognized them. A photographer, camera raised, eyes glinting with opportunism and malice. Everything. Every stolen glance, every touch, it's all gold for the headlines. Don't think I won't use it. Jungkook's fists clenched. You don't know what you're messing with, he growled, moving to shield Jimin, standing taller, broader, a living barrier between Jimin and the threat. You take one step closer and you'll regret it. Jimin pressed against Jungkook instinctively, fear and desire tangled into a cocktail that left him dizzy. What now? He whispered, voice trembling but tinged with excitement, adrenaline making every nerve alive. We fight, Jungkook said, voice unwavering, eyes locked on the intruder. Because nothing will take this from us. Not you, not them, not the world. He turned his gaze to Jimin, softening slightly and brushed a strand of hair from his face. Are you with me? Jimin's lips curved into a dangerous, daring smile. Always, he said, voice steady now, echoing a promise that went deeper than words. And in that charged moment, the alley became more than just a hiding place. It became a battlefield, a stage for their defiance, and the crucible in which their love burned hotter, fiercer, and more untouchable than ever before. Even as the camera shutter clicked repeatedly, even as the threat loomed, Jimin and Jungkook clung to each other, unshaken, untamed, and completely consumed by the fire they had chosen to ignite. Because sometimes, the most dangerous love is the one that refuses to hide. The hotel room smelled of lingering cologne and the faint tang of rain that had begun to drizzle outside, misting the city lights into golden halos against the glass. Jimin paced near the window, fingers curling and uncurling, each movement betraying the storm inside him. Jungkook leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching him with a mixture of exasperation, concern, and an undercurrent of desire that made Jimin's heart hammer. You can't just throw yourself into chaos like that, Jungkook said finally, voice low, but carrying an edge that cut through the tension in the room. You almost, he stopped, realizing how powerless he felt to control what he could not stop, could not shield Jimin from. I don't want your control, Jimin snapped, spinning to face him, eyes alight with defiance and frustration. I never asked for it. I'm not yours to protect, Jungkook, but I am yours to fight for if you're willing. Jungkook's chest tightened, words faltering under the weight of raw emotion. He stepped closer, every inch of space between them charged with electricity. You make it impossible not to fight for you, he admitted, voice trembling slightly. Every time I see you, touch you, hear your voice, I lose control. And yet here we are, Jimin whispered, stepping closer, until the heat radiating from their bodies collided, exposed, threatened, and still burning for each other. His lips brushed Jungkook's jaw, slow, teasing, igniting shivers that ran down his spine. Do you feel it too, or is it just me? Jungkook's hands moved instinctively, gripping Jimin's waist, pulling him flush against his chest. Every second, he breathed, forehead resting against Jimin's. Every heartbeat, every shiver, every thought of you that keeps me awake at night. Jimin's lips curved into a daring, almost wicked smile. Then prove it. The words were simple, yet every syllable carried heat, challenge, and undeniable longing. Before Jungkook could respond, Jimin pressed their mouths together, and the kiss was nothing short of consuming, urgent, desperate, and deeply intimate. The rain against the window intensified, a rhythmic backdrop to their shared chaos. Jungkook's hands roamed, memorizing every inch of Jimin's body, while Jimin tangled his fingers in Jungkook's hair, tugging lightly, eliciting a low, guttural sound that made Jimin's stomach twist with pleasure and need. You're insane, Jimin gasped between kisses, voice trembling, a mixture of frustration, desire, and fear. Completely reckless, but I love it. Only for you, Jungkook murmured, lips brushing Jimin's ear. His voice was hoarse, urgent, and thick with emotion. Only you could make me this, alive, this, untamed. The door suddenly clicked, and both of them froze. The unexpected knock echoed through the room, sharp and intrusive. Their shared heat snapped into sharp alertness, tension coiling like a spring ready to snap. Who? Jimin's question faltered, fear threading through his voice despite the racing thrill of the moment. Jungkook's jaw clenched. Stay behind me. Every instinct screamed warning as he moved to shield Jimin. If it's them, we're not hiding anymore. The door swung open, and a familiar face appeared, someone they had trusted, someone whose presence now felt like betrayal. Jimin's eyes narrowed, a flicker of disbelief and hurt crossing his expression. "You," Jimin whispered, voice low, dangerous. The mix of anger, surprise, and betrayal made it impossible to look away. "I didn't expect to find you like this," the intruder said calmly, too calmly, eyes scanning the charged tension between Jungkook and Jimin. "I think the world needs to know what's really going on here." Jungkook's protective instincts flared instantly. "Then you're making a mistake," he said, stepping in front of Jimin. His body became a barrier, his gaze cold and unflinching. "Leave now before I regret it." The intruder's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "I think the truth is too delicious to let go unnoticed," they said, voice silky but laced with menace. "Besides, the fans would love this." Jimin's body trembled, not just with fear but with fury, his pulse racing and heat coiling tightly in his stomach. "We don't owe anyone anything," he snapped, moving closer to Jungkook, defiance blazing in his eyes. "And if you think you can manipulate us, you're wrong, completely wrong." Jungkook's fingers curled into Jimin's hair gently, pressing a reassuring kiss to his temple. "We handle it together," he said softly, voice firm, unwavering. "No one, nothing can touch us without facing both of us." The intruder's expression flickered with something darker, and then, without another word, they turned and left, leaving the door swinging slightly on its hinges. Silence filled the room, broken only by the heavy rainfall and their uneven breathing. Jimin exhaled shakily, leaning into Jungkook, still trembling from adrenaline and lingering desire. You didn't even flinch," he said softly, voice catching. "I'm not going to let anyone touch you," Jungkook said firmly, pressing a lingering kiss to Jimin's temple, his voice low, almost a growl. "Not ever, not now, not ever again." Jimin's lips curved into a tentative, almost tender smile, and for the first time that night, the chaos outside seemed distant, irrelevant. "Then let's burn this city together," he whispered, heat and defiance threading through the words. "Let them see exactly what they can't control." And as rain streaked the windows, their bodies entwined in a mixture of relief, desire, and unyielding determination, both knew one truth: they were unstoppable together. Dangerous, reckless, scandalous, and utterly consumed by the fire they had ignited in each other. The penthouse suite smelled faintly of rain, leather, and lingering cologne, a mix that made the air feel charged, almost combustible. Jimin leaned against the window, fingers tracing the streaks of water that blurred the city lights into liquid gold. Jungkook stood behind him, hands resting lightly on his waist, their bodies pressed together in a charged silence. The events of the past nights, the exposure, the threats, the whispers of scandal, had left them raw, yet somehow closer, more reckless than ever. "You know they're still talking about us," Jungkook murmured, voice low, hot against Jimin's ear. "Every word, every glance, they dissect it. They want to see us fall apart." Jimin shivered, though whether it was from fear or desire was unclear. "Let them," he whispered, lips brushing Jungkook's shoulder. "We're not falling, not like this." He turned slightly, hands tangling in Jungkook's hair, pulling him closer. "They don't get to decide us." Jungkook groaned softly, lips brushing Jimin's temple before capturing his mouth in a kiss that was urgent, needy, and utterly consuming. Jimin responded immediately, letting his hands roam freely, fingers pressing into muscles that were tense with adrenaline and desire. Every touch, every press of lips was a declaration. Neither cared about the outside world, only each other. "You're insane," Jimin gasped between kisses, voice trembling. "Completely reckless." "I like being reckless with you," Jungkook replied, a smirk in his voice despite the intensity of his grip. "I like knowing you're mine, even when the world is against us." Jimin's laugh was low and breathless, tinged with disbelief and exhilaration. "Mine too," he whispered, pressing himself closer, lips brushing Jungkook's neck. "But sometimes it terrifies me, how much I want you, how much I'd risk for you." "Then risk it," Jungkook murmured, voice hoarse, lips trailing down Jimin's jaw. "Risk me, risk us. Everything else doesn't matter." The tension between them was palpable, thick enough to choke on, yet electric, irresistible. They moved together with a synchronization born of months of stolen glances, hidden touches, and quiet, unspoken understanding. Every caress, every whisper, every shiver that ran through their bodies was amplified by the danger that lingered outside their walls. A sudden knock on the door made them both freeze, hearts leaping. The city noise below, the patter of rain on glass, all seemed to vanish in that moment. Jungkook's jaw clenched, protective instincts surging. "Who the hell is it?" he muttered, stepping in front of Jimin. I don't know," Jimin admitted, eyes narrowing with suspicion and a spark of anger. "But it doesn't matter. They can't interrupt this." The door opened slowly, and a familiar figure stepped inside. Someone they had once trusted, now wielding opportunity and threat like a weapon. Jimin's eyes went wide, disbelief and fury mixing in a dangerous cocktail. "You," he whispered, voice low but sharp. "You had no right." "I think the world deserves to see what's real," the intruder said, eyes glinting maliciously. "All these hidden moments, all these feelings, people would pay to know everything." Jungkook's hands tightened around Jimin instinctively, pressing him behind him. "You don't get it," he growled. "This isn't for you. It's not for anyone. You walk out right now or you regret it." The intruder tilted their head, a faint, dangerous smile curling their lips. "Oh, I think they deserve to know," they said, voice smooth, cold. "Besides, this could ruin them, or maybe it'll make them crave it even more." Jimin's chest heaved, pulse racing, a mix of desire, fury, and fear coursing through him. "We don't owe anyone anything," he said, stepping slightly forward, defiance flaring in his eyes. "And if you think you can control us or shame us, you're wrong, completely wrong." Jungkook's fingers tangled in Jimin's hair, drawing him in close, lips brushing his temple. "Stay with me," he whispered, voice low, urgent. "No one touches us without facing both of us." The intruder's smile faltered slightly at the unwavering defiance in their eyes, but they left anyway, shutting the door with a quiet, deliberate click. Silence filled the room, broken only by the rain outside and the rapid rhythm of their hearts. Jimin exhaled shakily, pressing his forehead against Jungkook's chest. You didn't even flinch," he murmured, awe and longing threading through his voice. "I never do," Jungkook said softly, pressing a lingering kiss to Jimin's temple. "Not when it comes to you, not ever." And then, as if the world outside no longer existed, they surrendered to the heat between them, to the reckless passion that had been simmering for months. Fingers traced, lips pressed, breaths mingled, and in that private, storm-swept sanctuary, they gave themselves entirely to each other. Each kiss, each touch was a promise, a rebellion, a defiance against every expectation, every threat, every whisper that sought to divide them. The rain streaked down the windows, painting the city in blurred light, but inside the suite, all clarity belonged to them. Their bodies, their hearts, their fire, uncontainable, unyielding, unstoppable. And as they moved together, consumed by each other, they both knew one undeniable truth. Whatever chaos the world hurled at them, they would face it together, scorching every doubt, every fear, every obstacle in their path. The first light of dawn spilled through the curtains, painting the room in soft golds and pinks. Jungkook lay behind Jimin, arms wrapped protectively around him, their bodies still tangled from the night's fire and recklessness. The city outside was waking, indifferent to the storm they had survived together, but inside their room, time seemed to exist only for them. Jimin stirred, turning slightly to meet Jungkook's gaze, the quiet intimacy of the morning making his chest tighten. "We survived it," he murmured, voice husky, still thick with emotion and lingering desire. Jungkook brushed a strand of hair from Jimin's face, eyes softening. "We did," he said, pressing a gentle kiss to his temple. "And we'll survive anything, together." Jimin leaned into him, letting the warmth of Jungkook's body ground him, steady him. "Even after all of this," he whispered, "after the threats, the exposure, the chaos." "Especially after all of this," Jungkook replied firmly, voice carrying an unshakable certainty. "Because we chose each other, every single time. And that makes us stronger than any danger, any rumor, any world outside this room." Jimin smiled softly, eyes glimmering with tears and relief. He pressed a light kiss to Jungkook's lips, lingering, savoring the calm after so many storms. "You make me feel fearless," he confessed, voice breaking just slightly. "Like nothing can touch me as long as I have you." Jungkook's fingers traced delicate patterns along Jimin's spine, grounding him, claiming him, and making him feel untouchable. "You've always had me," he whispered, voice low, intimate. "And I've always had you. Nothing, no one can change that." For the first time in weeks, the world outside, the paparazzi, the scandals, the whispers, felt distant, irrelevant. In the quiet intimacy of that room, they didn't need to fight anyone, didn't need to hide, didn't need to explain themselves. All that existed was each other, their hearts beating in sync, their bodies still humming with the fire of the night before. Jimin pressed a hand to Jungkook's cheek, thumb brushing lightly over the curve of his jaw. "Let's never let go," he whispered, voice almost trembling with the weight of everything they had endured. "I won't," Jungkook promised, pressing a final, lingering kiss to Jimin's lips. "Not ever." They stayed like that, wrapped in each other's arms, letting the first sun rays warm them, letting silence and peace fill the spaces that chaos had once occupied. The city could rage, rumors could spread, the world could try to intrude. But inside their sanctuary, their bond was untouchable, untamed, and eternal. And as they drifted back into a shared, peaceful embrace, the fire between them wasn't just desire or defiance. It was love, unbroken, undeniable, and impossible to extinguish. The storms of the night had passed, but the sparks they ignited together would burn forever.